Welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be a little bit different to usual. We're going to be doing a Q&A video. So a few weeks ago, I put up a question and answer post. I got a bunch of different questions on strength training, general fitness, nutrition, stuff like that. So in this video, I'm going to go through some of those questions. I'm going to chill with you for the next 15-20 minutes with a cold can of Monster and chat about training. So grab a Monster, coffee, whatever kind of caffeine you like, and let's go through some of these questions. If you're new to the channel, I'm Ben. I'm a strength coach and competitive powerlifter. I've been coaching now for just over 10 years. I've worked with literally hundreds of people, helped them all to get bigger and stronger. I have a master's degree in exercise science, and in this video, hopefully I'm going to give you some value that you can take away, go and improve your strength training. So let's get straight into the questions. So Slow Estus 2 asks a multi-part question. I'm going to put some of the questions on screen as well. How and when did you get into strength training? Like, did you have any particular inspiration or something like that? Yes, so why did I get into training? I started out very, very skinny. So I was 60 kilos when I was around 16 years old, and I was 6 feet tall. And I'll put a picture on screen, and most of you can probably relate to this, but I was like really, really skinny, like to the point where even like my family, friends and stuff like that would comment and ask like if I was unwell or something. And even my mates at school all the time would take the piss out of me because we'd be getting changed in the changing rooms at school, and like you could literally see all the ribs through my chest and everything. Like I just had no muscle at all. I don't really know why I was that skinny. I just didn't really have an appetite growing up. I was always into sports and stuff, playing football, but I just didn't really eat very much food. And honestly, the real reason for kind of starting this training and everything is a little bit of a dark reason, I guess, but some of you can probably relate, so I'd like to be real. That my dad, basically, when I was growing up, he used to tell me all the time that I was so small, I was really weak, that I was like less of a man for being so skinny and having no muscle on me. And it just made me really insecure. So I got into lifting weights. I wanted to bulk up. I wanted to get bigger, just to feel like more of a man, feel more confident. And eventually, after lifting for like a few months, a few years, straight away it started to improve my mental health. I felt less depressed. I just felt way more confident in myself. I was filling out my clothes. And really quickly, I just got addicted to like the progress of putting more and more weight on the bar. And I think that's why I was more drawn to strength training, because I just really like that kind of progress of just seeing the weight on the bar go up week after week and stuff like that. And I used to be a gamer, like I used to play Call of Duty a lot, so maybe it comes from that kind of background of like leveling up and prestiging and stuff like that. But I just like seeing that progression. And for me as well now, like when I'm now later into my lifting career, if you want to call it that, I notice straight away that if I have like a few missed sessions from the gym or my strength is down, straight away my confidence starts to fall apart. And I don't think you can really be strong mentally without being like physically strong. So for me, the strength side of things is really important. But yeah, that's pretty much why I got into the gym. I had a dad telling me that I was skinny, weak for these years growing up, but then it just improved my confidence a lot, and I love to lift. Part number 2, what's your academic background and why did I go for an evidence-based approach to training? Yeah, so I actually went to college first to study sports performance. So originally I was more like endurance focused. I used to play football or soccer here in the UK, and the goal was to be a professional footballer, which obviously didn't happen, so I became a powerlifter instead. But when I went to college, yeah, I wanted to be a pro footballer. I went to a sports college that was specifically for football. We were training like pretty much every day. It was like 5 days a week. You had to go through some trials to get into the college and stuff like that. And I remember one of the very first days that I was at that college, I went in all motivated, thinking like, yeah, I'm going to be a pro footballer one day. And I went in and we trained with actual pros. And I remember one of the players took a free kick. And it was very far, it was like, I can't remember because I haven't played football in so long, but maybe like 30, 40 yards out. And this guy just strolls up to the ball and just places it in the top corner. And I was just thinking like, what the fuck? Like, these guys are so much better than me, so much fitter, so much stronger, like their brains work so quickly. So eventually that dream kind of started to fall apart because the standards were just so high. Then I got into strength training a bit more. I went to university to study a bachelor's and master's degree in exercise science. So most of my study was on things like biomechanics, anatomy and physiology, a lot of sports psychology stuff, programming. So I did a lot of study on that side of things. If any of you have been to university, you know that you have to write like a thesis or a dissertation, which is basically like a really long report on like one subject. And for my undergraduate, I did a study on caffeine. So I actually took some like guys in the lab. I had one group of them take caffeine, another group took a placebo, and then they went and did a bench press 1 rep max. And I was basically testing like if caffeine improves bench press performance, if people get stronger when they take caffeine in the gym, and they did, and the research does show that as well. And then for my master's, I did my thesis on RPE, and if like beginners can actually use the scale reliably and stuff like that. So yeah, I did a lot of study. The reason I like the kind of evidence-based approach, it's simple. Like, I think if we have so much data and we've studied people for so long, then why guess and why try to kind of just use opinion and anecdote? I think anecdote and stuff like that is useful, and it's obviously like useful to look at trends from what the successful people have done. But if we can literally study people and put them in a lab and see if these things work and everything, why not use both? So I personally like to use the evidence, use my experience, and just combine the two. I think that makes the most sense. And the third is, do you still compete in powerlifting? Yeah, so my last competition was in, it's been a while now. I think it was actually like May last year when I hit 247.5 kilo squat, 160 kilo bench. I actually failed a 300 kilo deadlift because I injured my back very badly at that competition. I couldn't walk. I couldn't even stand up out of a chair for like 2 weeks after that competition. That's why I've taken a little bit of a break. I'm actually quite weak right now. That's why I'm not posting up like newer training clips, because after that back injury, I took it a little bit easy on the powerlifting. I was doing like a bit of bodybuilding training, because you got to keep in mind, I've been doing this stuff for about 10 years. The powerlifting training can get like exhausting mentally when you've been doing it for a really, really long time. So lately I've been just enjoying the training a bit more. I actually, because I moved into my new place right now, I've started a strength block for the first time in a while. So I'll be really pushing squat, bench, deadlift and getting back to my past numbers again. Goals this year, I'm looking for a 260 squat, 170 bench press and a 317.5 deadlift. So next question is from Kathleen Stewart 44. Hopefully I'm getting all these names right as well, by the way. How do you build the skill of determining RPE? RPE 8 to 9 is straightforward, but I find it difficult to gauge RPE 5 to 7 and have been defaulting to percentages. Yeah, so you have to keep in mind that the lower the RPE gets, and I keep looking at the screen, by the way, because I'm new to this camera and I want to see how long this has actually been recording for. So I don't even know how long this video is just yet. If anyone knows, does it show on screen? I don't think so. I'm not sure, but yeah, so you have to keep in mind that the lower the RPE, the more kind of guesswork that's going to be involved. So obviously when you're at an RPE 8, 9, 10, it's pretty obvious how many reps you've got left in the tank, especially if you've been using RPE for a while. But you need to accept that there will be some guesswork involved as we get down to like RPE 5, 6s and 7s. When I'm giving people top sets at like RPE 5, 6, 7, I'm not expecting them to be 100% accurate. What I'm looking for is reliability in their predictions, right? So if you rate an RPE 5 set on week 1 and then rate it again week 2, week 3, for example, I just want that rating to be similar from week to week. It doesn't need to be 100% accurate or precise. It just needs to be reliable. So I don't want you to have an RPE 5 one week that's like really, really fast. Then the next week you rate it and it's a grinder. We just want the rating basically to be consistent from week to week, block to block. And one thing I can say on RPE, because I can see a few questions on RPE on this post, is try to kind of dissociate your feelings from RPE. You need to be rating reps in reserve, okay? So when you're thinking RPE 5, RPE 6, don't be thinking like, oh, that was a 5 out of 10 difficulty, or a 6 out of 10 difficulty. Think, how many more reps could I do, okay? I would recommend that you take video as well, and that's going to give you a more kind of objective measurement of your RPE rather than focusing on your feelings, okay? The next question is from Mark Maroney 2241. So again on RPE, how to determine different RPEs, what the rep should look and feel like. So yeah, to kind of break it down further, obviously an RPE 10 is failure. You could not do any more reps or any more weight on the bar, okay? So that's like max effort. RPE 9 means you have 1 rep left in reserve. You should expect that to feel very heavy, very hard. There should be noticeable slowdown in the bar speed. It should be quite grindy and quite slow, okay? RPE 8 means you had 2 reps left in reserve. Again, it's going to feel pretty hard, but you could do 2 more reps. If you're like really grinding and the bar is really slow, you probably don't have 2 reps left in the tank, but we do want to see some kind of slowdown of the bar. Then RPE 7 obviously would be a little bit easier than that. I wouldn't expect to see massive like velocity loss in the bar, but it will still feel quite challenging. RPE 5 and 6 is where we're more around kind of like heavy warm-up type territory. It's going to feel a little bit challenging, but we shouldn't see any like noticeable loss of speed in the bar, okay? So next question is from Living Here 1972. If someone wants to improve fitness as well as strength training with frequency, are there any ideal approach for incorporating cardio? Yeah, so too many of you have got this belief that like cardio and strength training need to be separate, these two like distinct things that you can't combine together. And I'll tell you right now that if you want to be as strong as possible, you need to be doing cardio consistently. And I tell all of my lifters to do regular cardio. All of my lifters do cardio at least once a week, preferably twice or even more. And think about it, like the bigger base you have, the better aerobic fitness you have, the more volume you can do in the gym, the quicker you can recover between sets, the better your rep quality is at high rep sets because you're not getting like really gassed out, the better you can recover between sets, and you're going to look better, your body composition will be better, and you'll be healthier in the long run so that you can live for a longer time. So you definitely need to be incorporating cardio into your strength training. I would recommend for most of you, if you're not currently doing cardio, that you add in 2 low intensity cardio sessions of 20 minutes at like a 6 out of 10 effort. So that's an intensity that you could probably hold a conversation at, okay? And I would recommend that you do it on either an incline treadmill walk, or you jump on a bike or a rower or something like that. And I would recommend that you do it on your off days. So if you train 4 times a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, like I recommend in my free program that you can check out here, then you could do your cardio on a Wednesday and a Saturday or a Sunday. So just do it on your off days. A lot of you will ask, like, does walking count as cardio and stuff like that? Probably not, it's not intense enough. So try and fit in some kind of actual formal cardio, okay? Next question is from Doug Steer. I'm 60, it's not so much about 5x5, 3x5, 5-3-1, but about recovery. I can survive high volume programs like Bromley's Bull Mastiff, no idea what that is, but I don't improve much, probably not recovering enough. I sleep okay, eat well. Can I really take my intensity down to 60 to 65% and get consistently stronger? So this is a question that I get all of the time, and I've made videos on this because I always get older guys asking like how can I get stronger? I can't recover well enough. I've got bad recovery. And then they'll ask what this guy's asked at the end, like, can I really train that light and still get stronger? So for many of you, it's really counterintuitive to take weight off the bar and to train light in order to get stronger. And I'm going to try and tell you like why this is effective in the most kind of simple terms that I can, so that you can understand it and you can kind of buy into it and just go do it and get stronger. So for years and years, I literally trained exactly how you do now. And I thought that in order to get stronger, you just need to go really hard. You just need to train harder, harder, harder. You just force weight on the bar. And it was like, those really slow, grindy reps that you did, I really thought they were very productive and were getting me stronger. And in reality, they're not. So in order to get stronger long term, you need to understand very quickly that every single time you step in the gym, there are 2 outputs to every single one of your training sessions, okay? So every time you complete a training session, you generate some level of stimulus or fitness and some level of fatigue, okay? So we've got stimulus and fatigue. We get both of these outputs from each training session. Now, ideally what we want to happen long term is to get a pretty good stimulus, and then we want fatigue to be trailing behind that stimulus, okay? So we want this situation long term. Stimulus is pretty high, fatigue is trailing behind. What is happening to most of you, because you're following these really hard training programs where you do loads of slow, grindy reps, your stimulus is up here really, really high, but fatigue is even higher. Then what happens is this fatigue masks the stimulus or the fitness, and you can't recover in time for the next training session, so you can't put weight on the bar and actually demonstrate your strength, okay? So we need to dial the intensity down so that we can keep stimulus ahead of fatigue. And if we can do this long term, you can actually get stronger, recover, keep adding weight to the bar, and then you'll actually see progress long term. Now, as for the question, like, can I actually go that light down to like 60, 75% and keep getting stronger? Yes, you definitely can. Individualization is going to play a part. Like, some people will do better towards that 60% spectrum. Some will do better towards like 75, 80%. It depends on the individual. You need to find kind of where on that spectrum you fall, what you can recover from, what allows you to get stronger. For myself, I'm far towards that like low intensity spectrum. That's what I do really well with. So I kind of bias that and I teach people that because it seems to work well for the people I coach, but you need to experiment, okay? Now, the reason that the low intensity stuff works is, one, because it keeps fatigue at bay. So we end up with this high stimulus, lower fatigue. The other reason is because it's actually more specific to 1 rep max strength. Now, this is sometimes confusing for people to understand, but if you just think in very simple terms that all of us, and most likely you watching this video, are training for a bigger 1 rep max. Now, a 1 rep max is a measure of force production, okay? Now, force has a specific equation, like a physics equation. So force is mass times acceleration, okay? Now, many of you forget this kind of acceleration component of force. And these reps that you're doing that are really slow, really grindy, they're not actually specific to a 1 rep max because you're producing less force. There's less acceleration. The reps are very slow. So not only are these hard sets giving you a ton more fatigue because they're so hard and close to failure, they're actually giving you less stimulus as well because you're moving really slow. You're producing less force. Now, think about that for a second and really try and like understand and process that. And then you might start to realize that the reps earlier in the set, the ones that are really fast when you're moving the bar with a lot of acceleration, are actually the ones that are more specific. You're producing more force. So basically what I'm trying to say is that we want to do more of these reps that are fast with more acceleration and we're generating more force rather than more of the really slow grindy ones. An easy way to combine this in your programming is to do some hard and heavy training, some top sets at 1 to 3 reps at 80% and above. That's your skill stuff. That's your exposure to the heavy weights. Then do the bulk of the training at 60 to 75% because 1, you can recover from it. 2, it's high force production and it's actually very specific to a 1 rep max. Now, don't take this to the extreme and do like West Side type speed work. That stuff is too light. We want to be somewhere in the middle of that spectrum where we're still lifting enough weights that we get the adaptations we want for strength, but it's not so heavy that we're not producing high levels of force, okay? Hopefully that makes sense and you can kind of apply that to your training. So another question from D3F3, some random username. How to determine the ideal rep scheme for back off sets for an individual? For example, choosing sets of 4 reps instead of 6 reps. Yeah, so there's quite a lot that goes into this, honestly. And I know usually I'll give a default range of like 4, like say 3 to 6 sets of like 3 to 6 reps, for example. And I know for most of you watching, that's probably quite a broad range. And you're probably thinking like, why 3 reps, why 6 reps? Basically, try to kind of like prevent this overthinking of rep ranges. Like, do I need to do 3s or 4s or 5s or 6s? Try and think of it as a dose of stress. Like, how much stress do you need to get stronger? And basically, if you need some more stress, then we can kind of manipulate the rep ranges based on that. So if you find that you respond better to a bit more intensity, maybe we'll go for sets of 3 or 4 because it allows us to put some more weight on the bar. Then if you respond a bit more to more volume, then maybe we can go on the higher rep range side of things. So sets of 5, sets of 6, because it's easier to get more volume in. Now, the kind of factors that I consider when I'm determining rep range, like am I going to choose 3s or 4s or 5s or 6s, is initially in first training blocks, when I work with a new lifter, I will tend to start on the higher range of that. So if we're working on like sets of 3 to 6, I'll probably start them towards 6 reps. Just because it ensures that the weight on the bar is not too heavy, it holds them back a little bit, it ensures we get a good dose of volume. Then as we work through the training blocks and things get heavier and heavier, maybe we start block 1 with sets of 6, then we drop to sets of 5, then sets of 4, just so it encourages slow like weight progression, because obviously you can lift heavier on sets of 4 compared to sets of 6. Then over time, like as I work with someone longer and longer, I'll start to accumulate data on what they're responding well to. So did they do well in that block where we ran 6s and we were doing higher volumes? Or did they respond better in that block where we were doing 4s or 3s with lower volumes? And then I can start to kind of piece together what they're responding best to, how much volume they need. To give you a practical example from my own training, like with my deadlift, my secondary deadlift to be specific, I've found over years and years of training that on my secondary deadlift day, I need to do around 20-25 total reps to kind of accumulate enough stimulus for my primary deadlift to feel strong. Because I know that I need that many reps, I chose slightly higher reps, so I do sets of 6, and I basically do a top set of 5 and then a 3x6, because I know that that dose of volume is what's needed for me to feel strong, for me to PR my primary deadlift. If you can kind of work that out over time, you can figure out which rep ranges are most suitable for yourself. Another thing that I would consider with rep ranges, and this is probably one of the biggest one, is anthropometry or your individual leverages. So let's use the squat, for example. If you're a low bar squatter and you're someone who is not built very well to squat, like myself, you've got really long femurs, you have to bend over a lot when you squat, then I would probably stay away from higher reps, because when you do higher reps, it's your back that tends to take the brunt of the work. Your technique starts to get really hingy. We're not getting very good stimulus for the legs. Like for myself, it's just really hard to do a bunch of 6s on a low bar squat because I'm not built very well to do it. If you're a guy that's got really short legs, longer torso, you squat like this really upright, then you probably would respond really well to like 6s, 7s, 8s and stuff like that, because it's just really easy for you to accumulate that work. Each rep represents a shorter distance compared to a taller guy. So yeah, there's loads of considerations that come into it, but you just need to basically experiment and see over time which works best for you. But a nice default is just to go in the more moderate rep range of like 4 or 5 reps. That's a nice simple way to start. Next question is from Jareth127. So how to learn more about strength programming. Standard Western periodization is the default info when searching for programming advice, but as pointed out in your videos, has its limitations. Yeah, so to be honest, where to learn about programming? I'll give you some good resources and kind of where I've picked up most of my knowledge from. I would say personally that the people I've learned the most from about programming is Barbell Medicine, Reactive Training Systems. Greg Knuckles also puts out some great stuff. PR's Performance, that's Steve Donovi. Swolefessor puts out great information as well. And then probably the most that I learned about programming was from hiring my own coach personally. That's Sean Noriega. He's an under 83 kilo powerlifter. Those are the resources I've learned most about. So when I initially started training, Barbell Medicine were kind of the resource that I took most of my information from. Really intelligent guys. Then I kind of moved into like Reactive Training Systems. Mike Tuchscherer is a world record holding powerlifter, really, really smart guy. And I basically compiled all these sources and then put my own spin on it, recognized some of the problems with these like popular approaches, and then adjusted things to basically suit the needs of myself and the lifters that I was working with. I've coached hundreds of people, and obviously you see trends, you see things that don't work quite so well, but those are the resources I would recommend checking out. They're some of the best in the game in my opinion. But by far the quickest way to learn more about this stuff is to hire a coach. If you want to hire me as your personal coach, top link in the description. I'll teach you everything that I know. Or a second link if you just want some good programs to go and follow and basically like have a look at how I do things and take some pieces for yourself, okay? But those are the best kind of resources that I would go and look at. Next question is from Malcolm Hales, 8181. At 64, I've been strength training for over 50 years. I have a lot of experience in lifting as an ex-pro athlete, but I still struggle with getting older and overtraining. Any chance you could do a training program for us older guys? Yeah, so if you click the link here, I've got one video that actually speaks to more like older guys in the gym, and I touched on this in one of the previous questions. But basically, I wouldn't really change anything drastically just for like an older guy. Again, it just comes down to individualization. Like, we need to dose the training stress appropriately. If you're an older guy and you're not recovering quite so well, maybe we need to start you with slightly lower volumes, lower weights and stuff like that. But eventually, I would expect you to do just as well as a young guy. I have a 67-year-old that I coach, Mark, his name is, and one strategy that I've found really useful with him is using static volume work. So basically what I mean by that is we do the top sets. That top set is the 1 to 3 reps at 80% and above, and we really push that week to week. So I encourage him to put weight on the bar every single week. But then for his back down work, instead of adding weight to that each week, we'll just keep it static for an entire block. And that really helps with managing fatigue. He doesn't get so beat up. He doesn't experience so many aches and pains, because that we keep fatigue in check. There's not so many moving parts. So for example, his top set might look like 120 kilos, 125, 130, 135 over the weeks. Then the back off work might just be like 80 kilo, 80, 80, 80 throughout the entire training block. And that allows us to really manage fatigue better. But in general, for older guys, I wouldn't really drastically change the training. I would just make sure that you're dosing it appropriately, okay? And that goes for age, gender, experience, anything, not just age. Next question is from Michael, or I'm not sure how you pronounce that, Martinka. Hi Ben, your advice is to bench 3 to 4 times a week. Given that back muscles play a big role when it comes to pressing, would you also suggest to do rowing of any type 3 to 4 times a week? Glad I found your channel. The best of luck. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate the support. So back training for the bench press. I'll be honest with you, I think back training is like insanely overblown or exaggerated for the bench press. I don't know why people have this obsession with like big lats, big bench press and stuff like this. I don't know, it's like the back muscles, they don't function to press or to actually move the bar upwards. So I'm not really sure where this obsession came from. Obviously, like having a big back and having more muscle mass will never hurt your bench press. Like being bigger in general is just never going to hold you back from getting stronger. And I guess you could make the argument that like a bigger back is going to give you like a wider base of support on the bench. Maybe the lats would help to stabilize the arms and the shoulders in the bench press if they were bigger. And I could see the argument that like if you've got some huge lats, like you can rest your tricep on your lats at the bottom and probably reduce the range of motion and stuff like that. But I don't know, just train your back to get as big as possible. I don't think you need to be overthinking like, oh, should I do this lat exercise, or should I be doing this specific back training for my bench press? I think you should just improve your bench press training. Like so many guys are asking me like, should I train my back this way for a bigger bench press? And then they're benching once or twice a week. Like that don't make any sense. Just bench more often, bench 3 or 4 times a week, and then train your back just like any other body part to get as big and strong as possible. I train my back currently twice a week directly, and then other times indirectly through deadlifts, Romanian deadlifts, stuff like that. But in general, back training is really simple. I would just pick 4 movements as your base. A narrow grip row, wide grip row, narrow grip pull down, wide grip pull down. That's literally it. So you'd be doing this, 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 and this. That's your base. And then do some rear delt isolation. You could do some trap isolation if you want to grow bigger traps. But keep it simple. Just try and get the back as big and strong as possible. You don't need to overthink this stuff too much. Next question's from Potato Waffle 5653. Top tips for someone going into their first powerlifting meet. Yeah, so it feels like ages ago since I did my first competition. To be honest, I think as well, people put too much pressure on their first competitions. And I see posts all the time of people giving these like huge checklists for your first competitions. And I think it makes people actually like nervous and reluctant to go compete. And that's why they start thinking like, oh, I need to be this strong, or I need to have certain numbers before I go and compete. But honestly, like powerlifting competitions are pretty fun, and the people there are really supportive. Like even if you go with no handler or no coach or something, people are usually going to help you out. They're going to help you in the warm-up room. I know if I'm at a competition, I will always offer free help to people or handle them for free and stuff like that. So all that I would recommend you do is, 1, familiarize yourself with the rules. Make sure you know your rule book off by heart. Don't go there and like be the guy who does a touch and go bench press or doesn't hit depth in the squat or something. Learn the rule book, make sure you've got your kit and your kit is approved, and then go in with the plan. Have your numbers pre-planned out. Don't just go in and guess. Like have specific numbers for your openers, for your second attempt, third attempt. Give yourself some ranges and then go enjoy the day. So learn the rule book, get your kit in check, and then go in with the plan. Don't go in and just like freestyle it and stuff like that, because you're going to mess up, you'll make mistakes, and it'll ruin the day for you. And then bonus tip, if you can, go with a friend, go with someone to handle you. Basically, they'll just like give your attempts in, they'll put the weights on the bar and stuff like that for you. That's like a really big help, to be honest. But if not, there'll be people in the warm-up room to help you out. But yeah, go have fun with it. Like, go lift some heavy weights, get cracked on caffeine. Like my last competition, I had like literally a gram of caffeine. I felt so bad the next day, but yeah, don't stress too much. Go have fun with it. Next question's from something sense, S dirty sense. If you have 2 benching days in a row, which is better? First heavy day and then light day, or light day and heavier? It depends, man. Like, it completely depends on you. Me personally, I perform quite well under fatigue. So my heavy primary bench press day is on a Saturday. Before that primary day, I have a primer bench, which is 2 days before. So Thursday I do my primer bench, Saturday I do my primary bench. And yeah, it just like prepares me for the heavy bench, and then I perform well on the primary one. But it depends on you. If you don't do so well under fatigue, maybe you need to do your light bench, heavy bench, but you need to experiment with it. Question from SNeil8056. Should back offsets be done in dynamic effort style? Touched on this earlier, but no, we don't want to do west side like speed type work. The speed work, in my opinion, it leans way too far towards that acceleration side. Like I said earlier, we want to be kind of in the middle of that spectrum. If you're doing really light speed work, the adaptations aren't the same. They're like conflicting towards what we actually want for strength. So no, I wouldn't go so far towards that end of the spectrum. The reps should be fast, but we don't want them like where you could literally jump with the weight on a squat or something. Next question is from Joe604 iPod. Have you had to deal with any joint or muscle issues, strains that won't go away, discomfort in your shoulders, back or IT band, etc.? Do you have a stretching routine or mobility drills you do often? So have I had to deal with any joint or muscle issues? Yeah, all the time. Literally, I can't remember the last block of training I didn't have some kind of ache or pain. You might be surprised to hear that, but it's just part of the game. It comes with hard training. If you're pushing things hard, you're going to have things that hurt. And I think that people freak out about this way too much. Obviously, I coach a lot of guys, and as soon as they have an ache or a pain, they're like, I need to take a few days off and stuff like that. But if you take anything from this kind of discussion, pain does not equal damage. Like, that might sound surprising, but pain is more of a threat perception mechanism. It's not really this simple thing where it's like if something hurts, something is damaged. It doesn't really work like that. Now we understand pain a bit more, and we understand that you can have damage with or without pain. So yes, I experience aches and pains all the time. You manage them by adjusting the stimulus of your training, adjusting the dose. So if something hurts, we need to improve your symptoms by scaling down the training and managing load appropriately, whether that means taking weight off the bar, adjusting an exercise, adjusting the tempo, the range of motion, or something like that. Don't just train through it like an idiot. We need to change some variables in order to kind of help you with the pain. Do I have any stretching routine or mobility drills? Not really. I think stretching is a waste of time for the most part, I'll be honest with you. Because when you strength train properly through a full range of motion, you are stretching anyway under load. What do you think is a better way to improve the kind of range of motion of your hamstrings? Bending down and doing a toe touch, like a hamstring stretch, or loading up 4 plates on a Romanian deadlift and going through a really long full range of motion? I think the RDL personally, and it's more specific to my training, it actually gets me stronger. So no, I don't really do stretching very often at all. Pretty much never. I used to years ago, but I realized it was a huge waste of time. Mobility stuff, I will give my lifters specific movements, like rehab type movements to address certain areas. One of my kind of go-tos that I really like is a lot of my bigger guys have big problems getting into this squat rack position. So I've been using some Macleod flies, I think that's how you pronounce it, where you lie on an incline bench, you have a pair of dumbbells, and you allow the dumbbells to pull you into external rotation, and then we press. And basically, I think things like that are far more effective for improving range of motion because it's more specific to the lifts we care about, and it's actually loaded rather than just doing these bodyweight stretches. But having said that, like if you find that stretching makes you feel better, more movement is never going to be detrimental, so go ahead and feel free to stretch as well. I just don't think it's the most effective way to manage your pain. Next question is from Adam Hamilton. The video you did on cycling intensity to avoid unnecessary deload, for example, backing off to RPE 5 and working back up to RPE 8 to 9 for strength, you would apply this to the bodybuilding work also. So yeah, if you didn't see that video, basically I recommend it instead of doing a traditional deload where you take like a formal structured deload or you have a week off. I basically recommend just periodizing your training blocks so that they start light and end heavy. So the deload is kind of built into the program, but it's still like a proper like real week of training rather than this deload week that you go into with like the deload mindset and stuff like that. So would I recommend you do that for the bodybuilding work also? Yes, I would. I wouldn't necessarily like change the actual RPEs in the program. So most of your bodybuilding work I think should be done around RPE 7 to 10, so pretty hard. What I would do is I would kind of just reset a little bit at the start of the block. So let's say you did bicep curls as your main bicep movement and your block went like 3 by 10 at 10 kilos, 12, like 15, 17.5 or something like that. I would basically reset and start over. So if you started block 1 at 3 by 10 at 10 kilos, you might go 12.5 kilos on the next block, okay? And we just naturally like load it back up heavier and repeat that process. Because if you end week 5 with like the 17.5 kilo dumbbells and then you try and start the next block with the 20 kilos and like carry that low progression on, you'll really quickly fizzle out and then you'll get halfway through the block, you'll feel exhausted and you'll have to reset and go backwards, right? I really want to see how long this has been recording for, by the way, because I have like no idea how long this video is. Hopefully you're enjoying it though and it's not too long. I know these Q&A videos, I like to just like put them on in the background, go do some work or some cleaning or something like that. So hopefully I'm not boring you too much. Next question. This one is from Andreas22246. How much unilateral work do you need to do to keep your body healthy and pain-free when training heavy bilateral lifts? Do you do any? I don't necessarily think you need to do any. I think you'd be just fine doing no unilateral work. A lot of guys seem to have this belief that like imbalances are really bad or really dangerous, and I know all these Instagram experts love to tell you like you're imbalanced, this is why you're in pain, this is why you're injured, and that's complete made up bullshit. Like we're all imbalanced by design. Like our entire body is imbalanced. Like your quads are stronger than your hamstrings by design. Your organs are on one side, like your heart is on one side by design. Just one side is stronger than the other. Like some of you are left-handed or right-handed. Our entire body is imbalanced by design. And if you tried to get it all into like perfect balance and stuff, you wouldn't be a very good functioning human. Our body adapts to the demands we place on it. So if you brush your teeth every morning with your right hand, you'll be good at brushing your teeth with your right hand. But then if you went and practiced it with your left hand for the next 6 months, you'd be good at that. So it's basically just the principle of specificity. Your body adapts to the demands you place on it. And these imbalances aren't necessarily like bad or injurious. You're not going to get injured just because like one side is stronger than the other or something like that. Now, there are specific outliers to this. Like if you had a very serious injury or something and then you had like a significant strength deficit. But for most of you watching this who are just like normal guys training normal, these imbalances, you don't need to be obsessed and worrying about them all the time and thinking, do I need to train every part of my body unilaterally and stuff like that? Which I don't think this guy's asking, but just in general, you don't need to be doing a bunch of unilateral work. If you enjoy it, sure, do it. I do some unilateral work. I do my lat pull down, single arm and stuff like that just because I feel a better connection to my lats. I enjoy doing them. But sure, you can add some unilateral work into your program if you feel it balances things out. Like if you've got one side that is like significantly stronger than the other, like for example, I've had some clients who have got one quad that's way weaker than the other. Sure, I'll get them to do a single leg press or a single leg Bulgarian split squat or something just to kind of balance that out. But for most of you, you don't need to be too overly worried about like having to do unilateral work and stuff like that for imbalances. Don't be scared of imbalances. We've all got them. It's by design. They're not going to get you hurt unless they're like really, really crazy or resulting from an injury or something like that. Okay, so use unilateral work as a tool if you enjoy it and you feel a better connection to the muscle and stuff like that. Next question from Jeopard Finn. Recovery after illness, i.e. how to start after some break in training. Yeah, so this happens a lot. I know a lot of people will have time off for illnesses and stuff like that. Easy way to kind of adjust for this is if you're running my style of programming where you're running blocks of like 4 to 6 weeks. Let's say you get sick on like week 2, 3, 4 or something like that. When you come back into the gym, just simply start off from week 1 of the block again. Don't try and push through and jump back in halfway through. Just restart from week 1, nice and simple. Next question. Which is more, this is Comfy Sleeps. Wow, I fucking read that like an idiot. Which is more important, intensity or volume on programming? Come on, man, watch the videos more. There's no most important. They're just two variables that we can manipulate to result in progress. Next question, Mustafa 1994, how to maintain strength during a cut. Recently uploaded a full video on that. Go and watch this one. Disclaimer, like, you shouldn't be losing strength on a cut if you're training properly, and unless you're losing like a significant amount of weight. John Keown 7512, any suggestion for programming or working out with a hamstring strain? Again, comes down to load management. So let's say you're experiencing that hamstring pain in the deadlift, for example. First thing I would do, I would reduce the weight on the bar until we get your symptoms tolerable. So we're looking like 3 to 4 out of 10 pain. Once we've got the pain under control, then we want to stack successful training sessions in a row while keeping symptoms stable. We basically want your pain to be stable during and immediately after the training session, okay? So if you adjust the weight on the bar and that doesn't work, I would next look at range of motion. So maybe you experience pain only at the bottom of the deadlift. So maybe we raise the bar up on blocks to eliminate that range of motion temporarily. Next, we could look at tempo. So maybe we start lowering the bar a little bit slower, or maybe we're a bit slower off the floor temporarily to desensitize things. And finally, I would look at exercise selection. So if conventional's hurting their hamstring, maybe give sumo a try for a bit, Romanian deadlift, something like that, right? Work your way down this list to get your symptoms under control. We want the pain tolerable, about a 3 to a 4 out of 10. Next question from Nick Dem 23. How do you know if you're properly recovering to the fullest extent for your training program? Okay, so this one is a bit of a kind of like common misbelief that you need to be fully recovered from training session to training session, and it's not the case. We need to accumulate stress over multiple training sessions, and we need to, like, the longer you train, the more stimulus and stress you're going to need to accumulate over a week of training in order to get stronger. When you're more of a novice lifter, you can accumulate enough stress in like one training session to then next week go and add weight to the bar because it was sufficient stress. Someone like myself, training for 10 years, I need to accumulate stress over an entire training block in order to get stronger. So if I need to do that over an entire block, I'm obviously not going to be fully recovered going into every single training session because I need to accumulate stress over a longer time frame. Now, that doesn't mean you should be going into your training Wow, it doesn't mean you need to be going into your training sessions fully recovered every single time. You shouldn't be going in feeling wrecked either though, but a good kind of gauge for this is the weight on the bar going up consistently. If it is, then you're recovered well enough. If it's not, and you're feeling beat up, tired, you're not motivated to go to the gym, your joints and your muscles are sore or aching, you're probably doing a bit too much, and then I would scale down the volume, intensity, or both, okay? Next question, and I'm only going to answer a couple more because I have a feeling this video is dragging on quite a long time. Sai loves barbells. Should accessory work be done if it does not directly contribute to the main lift? For example, not doing upper back work that isn't specific in the deadlift movement pattern. Yeah, so accessory work needs to be specific, but we don't want to take this specificity all the way to the extreme where we only train the squat, the bench, the deadlift. If we do that, one, we probably are going to run into some kind of overuse injuries. Two, psychologically, it would just be insanely boring to just do the same kind of stuff over and over. But three, it also like blunts your motor learning capabilities. So we have pretty good data that suggests that if you really specialize in on something and you only do a select group of activities, you actually get worse at learning new movements and improving motor learning skills. So yes, we want to do our SBD and make that stuff specific, but you want to have other things in there that kind of build a broader base. So yeah, we want to train most of the muscles, the major muscles of the body to get as big as possible, because hypertrophy is the thing that we can kind of modify long term to get the most out of our squat, bench, deadlift performance. So things like rows, pull downs are great movements to build the upper back. And like you said, maybe they don't directly correlate to like a bigger deadlift. It's really hard to measure, but it would be very hard to make the argument that having a bigger back would not make your deadlift stronger long term, okay? So yeah, we need to kind of balance that specificity with also building a big base and getting as much muscle mass as possible. Next question from no idea, PRWSCR. Hello, when I deadlift, leg press or squat, I like to think of snapping my knees like in leg extensions and snapping my hips to the bar. Is this the proper way to do it, or is it just regular squatting up when you try to jump? When I deadlift, leg press or squat? Yeah, I mean, if that cue works for you, snapping your legs. Yeah, so when I deadlift, I think about kind of extending my quads or like really leg driving the floor away from you. Cues are very individual, so if you feel like they're working for you, definitely stick with it and don't let anyone tell you that it's not a good cue for you. Hansong asks, what energy drink are you drinking at the beginning each time? Do you need a sponsor? Yes, I definitely need a sponsor. Monster, if you're watching, please sponsor me. Send me unlimited Monster energies. So this is a Monster Energy. No, I'm not sponsored. I wish I was. Pacific Punch. This has become like my favorite flavor. Is that going to focus? Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm ashamed to admit I drink right now probably 3 of these every single day, which I know is not great. But I work very long hours. Like I make this YouTube content. I coach like 60 lifters, Instagram content, improving my products and services so that I can help guys like you get stronger. So yeah, I have like 3 a day. I'll have coffee as well. Like there's a coffee machine just behind the camera. I wouldn't recommend you have 3 a day. I think you can safely drink like 1 a day, but yeah, I need to get my sleep in check and I'm working too much. But this is definitely my favorite flavor. This one and the Mango Loco are 100% the best ones in my opinion. The original green is pretty good as well. Final 3 questions here. So Vinay, long name 3672, how to be more explosive off the ground for deadlifts. I'm very strong in lockout, but always fail below the knee. Okay, so if you're always failing below the knee, I'm going to tell you that you're probably just training like a bit of an idiot and you keep trying to max out and lift too heavy. If you can't get it above your knee, the weight's too heavy. Stop trying to hit that weight. Build up to it slowly over an intelligent training block, okay? There probably isn't some like specific weakness you've got. You're just putting too much weight on the bar. Now, in the case of someone who does consistently fail, like off the floor, or they're really slow off the floor and then really good at locking out, 1, I would look at your start position. I got a full video here that kind of goes over start position. 2, if you're consistently failing at the knees, I would implement something like a pause deadlift at the knee. So pause the bar just under your knee for a 1 count. That's going to build a little bit of isometric strength in a potential position of weakness. It's also going to help you just naturally self-organize your technique and improve your positioning in that position that you regularly fail at. Now, a lot of people also like to use like deficit deadlifts and stuff like that if they're weak off the floor. You could do that, sure, to kind of increase the range of motion, generate a bit more velocity off the floor. I also like deadlift with bands just because it gives you a bit of like a tactile cue to pull as hard as possible against the bands or against chains or something like that. But in general, you're probably just putting too much weight on the bar, if I'm honest. Final 2 questions. So the Medium Jack asks, what is the actual difference between strength training and hypertrophy training? Sometimes the way it is explained, it sounds like hypertrophy training is just training closer to failure. It just seems like people's advice is to train harder for muscle growth. Yes, so let's kind of make this as simple as possible. And in these videos, I really like to just try and simplify some of these concepts, because a lot of these fitness influencers will try and flex on you with big words and scientific terms, and this study said this and this said this, but let's be honest, no one gives a fuck about all that scientific stuff. You just want actionable advice that you can go and improve your training with. So what is the actual difference between strength training and hypertrophy training? Super simple. Strength training is more about skill acquisition. Hypertrophy training is more kind of general. It's more generic. Growing bigger muscles is more of a kind of generic adaptation, whereas strength is more of a specific adaptation, okay? So if you want to get stronger at the squat, bench, and deadlift, you have to train those lifts. You have to become skilled at them. You have to develop neurological adaptations in order to get better at those lifts. We do that by having some practice at heavy weights, 80% and above, then doing some volume work that is specific to a 1 rep max, high force production type thing, and practicing the squat, the bench, the deadlift frequently. Simple as that. Hypertrophy training is more generic. Like, you just need to lift more weight over time and train hard close to failure, and your muscles will get bigger. Pick exercises that you enjoy, that train the muscle through a full range of motion, and then just go ham. Try lift more weight over time, train them close to failure, RPE 7 to 10, and your muscles will grow over time. You don't need to do like specific exercises here or specific like periodization or anything. Just pick exercises you like and hammer them over time. So strength is about skill acquisition. Hypertrophy is more of a general adaptation that we can just encourage to happen by lifting more weight over time, okay? That's as simple as it needs to be. Final question is from Dirt D Gamer. How come over time you've pivoted your intros to become more provocative and insulting? Like, you used to have a relatively calm intro, but now you just call people stupid and shut up and listen. Okay, so yeah, and there's some comments on that question as well. These kind of like provocative intros, like you're weak because of this and stuff like that, it's more to grab people's attention at first. And to be honest, I find that in general, men tend to respond better to kind of more, less babying, more kind of direct advice. So just being told, do this, do that. I think that's the reason why people like Andrew Tate have blown up so much, because he's just calling people out on bullshit, telling them like, do this, do that, and stuff like that. His approach is obviously way more extreme than mine. But yeah, just like for me personally, if I went to some of my mates and I said to them, like, I'm having this problem, like, this is going bad, I personally wouldn't want them to say to me, like, oh, it's okay, like, are you okay? Do you need to talk about it? I would want them to say to me, like, okay, do this, that's going to fix it, and I'd feel better. Probably you can relate to that watching this as well. If I want, like, babying and I want emotional type stuff, I'm going to go to a girl to tell me, like, it's going to be okay, like, come here. I'm not going to ask for it from guys. So I just think, in general, men respond better to just being told, like, you're doing this wrong, you're fucking up on this, do this, and it's going to fix it. And I would much rather, like, tell you what to do and help you improve rather than come on here like some of these fitness influencers do and tell you, like, it's okay that you've been training 10 years and you still look terrible and you can only bench press 2 plates. That's fine. Don't worry about it. That's bullshit. I'd rather come on and tell you, like, no, you could be way stronger. You're a really capable guy. And if you do this and you train better, you can get really, really strong and not, like, confine yourself to these really bullshit standards that people in the industry have told you. So yeah, I'd rather just tell you what to do, give you the blunt advice, you go and get strong, and then you can come thank me later when you're in better shape and you're stronger. I would prefer to be told that. That's why I hired a coach who told me, like, why are you doing this? Go do something smarter, like, just follow this. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any further questions from me, you want your question answered in a future Q&A, go ahead, check out my YouTube posts. I'll put one up again in the next like week or two. As soon as you see the post, just put your question in there. I'll answer it in a future video. If you have any questions or comments on this video, you just want to jump in a discussion, post it in the comment section below this video. Subscribe to the channel to make sure you see those posts so that you get your questions answered in a future video. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, chilling with me, chatting about strength training, drinking a Monster, coffee, whatever you had. I've got a free strength training program here as well. If you just want a program that you can go and follow, you can go and apply some of the concepts in this video. I really hope you got some value from this video. You go hit some PRs in the gym. And until next time, I'll catch you in the next video.